Decision-making is the process of selecting a logical choice from the available options. When trying to make a good decision, a person must weigh the positives and negatives of each option and consider all the alternatives. For effective decision-making, a person must be able to forecast the outcome of each option as well, and based on all these items, determine which option is the best for that particular situation.
In everyday practice, nurses make decisions about client care. Decision-making is basically implementing actions that are chosen from discussed alternatives. It requires both critical thinking and problem-solving. This decision-making process can be applied to any situation. It has 5 simple steps. First, you have to identify the need for a decision. Second, you must determine the goal or outcome. The third step is to identify the alternatives or actions along with the benefits and consequences of each action. Then you must decide which action to implement. Lastly, the 5th step is to evaluate the action.
In a Sports Business Journal article titled Walsh Jennings Goes on the Attack with P1440 series, beach volleyball player Kerri Walsh Jennings made the decision to start her own professional beach volleyball tour. The popular beach volleyball player made this decision a year after deciding not to sign a contract with the American Volleyball Tour. Walsh Jennings believed the prize purses for the AVP Tour were much too low, and the athletes deserve more. For the P1440 series, the prize purse is $300,000, substantially more than the AVP Tour. Jennings had to make a very difficult decision to not sign a contract with the AVP Tour, where she had been competing for the past 9 years. Her values weighed a lot in the decision-making process because she believed the competitors should be getting paid more for winning. This decision was based on internal factors for Walsh Jennings because she's creating a new tour offering what she believes is fair for female beach volleyball players. There are many factors that can influence a decision. These factors can be separated into 2 groups, internal and external factors. Internal factors consist of emotional state, physical state, personal philosophy, biases, values, knowledge, and experience. For example, if you're going into the decision-making process stressed out or tired, there's a greater chance you make a poor decision. Also, what you value and know from previous decisions can have a big influence on the decision you make. This can also be a negative because sometimes the decision you're familiar with isn't always the best for other situations. External factors that influence decisions are the ones that the decision maker can't really control. These are things like environmental conditions, timeline for decision, and availability of resources. For most business decisions, there's usually a deadline the decision has to be made by. This could impact how the decision is being made, and if it's not planned accordingly, could lead to pressured decisions. Also for sports teams, weather is a factor that influences decisions. It's external because there's nothing teams can do to prevent it. It's important to plan for these type of external factors, especially deadlines.
Group decisions allow teams or companies to come up with more unique decisions. When everyone in a group shares their ideas, it creates a more effective meeting and is much easier to come up with decisions based on groupthink. This is where brainstorming ideas is beneficial, along with the Delphi technique, which group members are put into particular topics of expertise to focus on. 2 other techniques that can be used to help group decision-making would be nominal group technique, which is a more higher form of brainstorming, and devil's advocacy, which assigns a member to argue or expose any problems or alternatives given by the group. There are 5 techniques for making group decisions. The first technique is consensus. This means that everyone's vote is equal and no change is made until everyone agrees. The second technique is democratic. It means that if enough people vote yes on a change, then it's okay if a few people say no. The third technique is dictatorial. Everyone is organized around the manager and he tells them what is going to happen or what choice they're going to make. The fourth technique is consultative. The manager communicates back and forth with each member. The group members can only talk with the manager, and the manager has to make a final decision, even if that decision doesn't match with the group's consensus. The final technique is group consultative. This means that the manager talks back and forth with each member, who can also talk within the group of themselves, not necessarily always to the manager.
Consultative decision-making is the style that is most often confused with collaboration. In the consultative decision-making style, the leader would ask key people for their thoughts, and allow them time to process and problem solve for what they felt was the best possible solution. The dictatorial leadership style focuses on the leader and no one else. It is a style of leadership where there is always personal control over the decision-making process for the team. A leader using this style may choose to receive feedback from their team, but any decision is theirs to make alone. In the article PGA of America's Waugh Targets TV and Headquarter Deals, Seth Waugh is the newly hired CEO of the PGA. He stepped in as the CEO and had some big decisions to make instantly. He had to decide on a new television deal for the PGA and had to choose a new headquarters for the organization to relocate to. Waugh said, "These are generational decisions. In the next month, we will absolutely need to have a final decision on it." By Waugh saying we, he's known to the fact that it will be a group decision-making process. Even though Waugh has just been introduced as the new CEO, he is up to par with everything going on in the organization, and he knows what decisions need to be made. He is in charge of making the decision to move to the PGA headquarters from Palm Beach Gardens, Florida, to Frisco, Texas, or another city possibly. For our workshop tomorrow, we'd like you to think about a few group decisions as well as individual decisions you've made in your life, and think about the factors that differed between those two types, and what factors you valued most in the decision-making process.